Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. Today's episode is brought to us by DXC Technology and is all about the planning for custom application development. Companies want off-the-shelf software, but it can't always deliver the right solution to meet their needs. We have a roundtable of experts from DXC today to dive into some of the key challenges for organizations looking at investment in custom development. We'll be talking about requirements definition, roadmap development, how to build atop off-the-shelf solutions, and how development fits in with application modernization. We have 4 guests from DXC Technology with us today, representing several perspectives on this topic. I'm going to start by just asking each of you to introduce yourself. We'll start with Mindy Waters. Hey, Mindy, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm Mindy Waters. I'm a delivery manager with application development, and I have worked heavily in the Dynamics world since about, I would say, the 1998 timeframe, and work in the app dev practice now, and we develop a lot of applications from scratch for our customers.
All right, welcome. Next, we have Keith Honkonen. Hey, Keith, welcome.
Thanks for having me. Yep, my name is Keith Honkonen. I work for DXC Technology as well from the digital cloud practice, and my specialty is enterprise integration.
All right, excellent. Next, we have on the line Will Wirtz.
Hello, Jason. Thanks for having me. This is Will Wirtz, Vice President of Software Engineering at DXC, and I'm happy to be here.
All right, great to have you. And we also have David LaMarre. David, welcome.
Hey, Jason, how are you? This is David LaMarre with DXC. And I have the unique pleasure of working with our clients in regards to solutions we can bring to them. My role is advisory and offering sales, and I've been in the custom application space working in that field since about 2007. And thanks for joining today.
All right. Well, I'm excited to have you all here and get started. The way I wanted to start things off was just to sort of set the stage a bit. In today's enterprise applications environment, why should customers be thinking about custom application development to solve business challenges, and what types of challenges does custom development typically solve for in your experience in the current marketplace? Mindy, do you want to start?
Well, actually, we can solve literally any problem. So, we find where customers went out and they tried to fit to a system that, maybe addressed their industry typically, but then they found that they had unique needs within their organization. So they tend to come to us for those types of services. They come to us for integrations that they may need as well. That's a really heavy area that Keith specializes in that he can probably talk a lot deeper on. And Will, any further thoughts from your side as far as any others?
Yes, thanks, Mindy. We work with customers early on in building roadmaps around their technology. So finding a solution that is in alignment with their long-term technology roadmap is critical. And when you look at trying to build a solution to get some type of business activity done, it's most efficient and most cost-effective to find a solution that already is implemented, a product that or a service that's already available, that's completely baked and done and available. The biggest problem is that every business is unique. And so it's very difficult to find a spot-on perfect match for what you need. That's where customizations and integrations to other applications comes into play. So that's one of the places where we try to help customers start with the base applications that they need, and then we then build onto those, augment those, or integrate them back into their core line of business applications.
Anyone else want to add anything on that?
Yeah, if I could, this is Keith. So the ERP implementation or the world of ERP implementations is a good example of that. Is we always try to guide our customers and showing them what we call industry standard. And when they end up purchasing an ERP, it's not all the time that they're able to change their business process. And that's a good example of where custom application development comes in. There's a lot of Fortune 20 clients that said, we're not changing our process, so we need you to change the way that this is functioning today. And again, that's where custom apps can serve a big need.
From And from the sales perspective, I guess the reason why I enjoy doing this so much is when I talk to my colleagues, we're very horizontal in the custom division versus other industries that may be extremely vertical. So it really does not matter the platform, the industry, or even the custom application they're looking to get to. We can generally solve that problem because we're extremely horizontal. So I can go to Keith or I can go to Mindy, and they can help create a solution that really fits our client needs. And it's very rewarding, not only for myself, but for our clients, is that we can do that across all industries.
Can you give an example of a pre-built solution and how your team developed on top of it to help an organization gain a competitive advantage?
Sure, I can take it. Over the years, I've done many types of solutions for customers where they, for instance, if they had an ERP system or a HR or payroll system, and they had a portion of the system that didn't necessarily fit that custom solution. And this is, a lot of what I'm speaking about is actually in the dynamic space. So generally, there's a lot of different tools that and extensions actually to those applications that you can kind of organically extend the app so that it is right in the .NET code. It is almost seamless from the aspect of its integration with the system.
So what happens is obviously there's no silver bullet software.
Right.
Also today with emerging cloud and that being a disruptor to meet organizations, there's a lot of fear mongering that you have to go to the cloud, you better go to the cloud, but it's more important that you don't put all your IT eggs in one basket. And what Mindy's referring to is extremely common, where, let me give you an example. What she just brought up is a lot of HR solutions are being done as software as a service, like Workday. These clients are implementing maybe a brand new back office or brand new CRM. They're not walking away from their latest cloud software as a service investment. So custom app for me is enterprise integration. That's developing flexible integration architecture that supports one system of record that happens to be the employee or HR system of record, the HRIS we call it. And then you have the entire back office, general ledger, payroll might not be being produced or generated from that back office, and there's an integration. So there's that in itself an example of custom application development in the form of enterprise integration. Again, that's flexible integration that solves their needs. There's also on-premise systems that aren't going away. They can't just sunset these systems. And again, that's where the custom application comes in as in the form of enterprise integration. And that is, you're keeping that system and you're trading data between these new software as a service or new platform as a service or something off-premise versus on-premise. That's the existence of custom applications.
Well, it's quite interesting that you say that, because we are in the process of actually doing a project right now where we are working with a customer that has several large gaps with the Workday system, and we're doing custom Azure PaaS apps in order to address the gap areas. They're actually fairly robust applications in themselves with heavy integration with Workday and actually ServiceNow.
Right. You can't have monolithic applications anymore and survive with the cloud. So it's exactly that suit, that design pattern of, you have autonomy between these systems, but you have interchange of exchanging critical information between these systems.
Absolutely.
Well, perhaps that brings me to one of the other main points I wanted to get your views on, which is really the topic of application modernization. There are a lot of ways to look at that, but how does DXC approach modernization with your customers today?
Well, that's probably a couple, I'd say, tri-folded approach to app modernization. So there's a lot of companies that are already in the cloud, where we have another side of our business where we help migrate them to the cloud. But then there's clients that are already in the cloud, and they're maybe 20-30% in to public cloud, for example. And Mindy can talk about government cloud, which she's dealing with now. But public cloud, with that is they're not going to do all in, right? They're not going to overcommit either. And here's the other thing: it might not just it might not come down to the cloud provider either, whether it's Amazon, Google, Microsoft, Alibaba, you keep going, but it's not privy to that cloud provider as well. When you talk about app modernization, it is, do they have a legacy app that can be saved, right? And that would be, can you instrument this application in order to gain insights to see if it's running in an optimized way? Then the second thing would be, can you produce endpoints and now make this create integration points for other new systems or new software as a service or platform as a service, off-premise, on-premise existing systems that they're still watering and feeding, that you can still have. Can you create service-oriented endpoints for these systems? Or are we talking about refactoring? Are we talking about breaking up pieces up into smaller components and subsets? And you can go into the microservices architectural style in that approach, or you can separate them logically and into by design by contract what they're supposed to handle in processing units. So it's a trifold approach to app modernization.
Yeah, the idea of application modernization of saying we have some legacy application or multiple applications. We need that general business functionality to continue, but the applications themselves are either outdated, you can't maintain them any longer, they're becoming too expensive, or they don't meet your current changing needs. App modernization, stepping back, looking at that business process and those functions that are taking place in those applications, then deciding how best do we now implement those same exact functions using modern technologies, adhering to our roadmap, which we've established earlier. So once we make sure we have the roadmap and we know where we're going, then how does this fit into it? That may just be, it could be, as Keith mentioned, moving it, just replatforming it to the cloud, or taking it from the cloud, moving it on-prem, or it could be rewriting, refactoring that into its own custom application, or customizations onto an existing application, as you could have 4 or 5 applications that could get merged into one larger application.
Yeah. Well, I also noticed, in fact, I talked with an organization yesterday that they actually service many customers in the dynamic space. And what they are actually doing is they want us to automate their code rollout so that all of their customers get installed. Basically, they release through this custom solution that we're actually building. Their first step, though, is to take, they've been running an IaaS in the cloud, and now they're moving to PaaS with a plan maybe like in 6 months to move over to a SaaS model. But they're taking it step by step and considering, pieces and parts that they can actually move over and have, like Will said, that strategy and roadmap that's kind of driving it.
Yeah, these companies, they have to get out of their data center. It's still you go 7 years back, it's still the same problem that they have is they're locked into expensive contracts. They need to get out, and so they do a lift and shift where they move these machines, virtualize them, move them in to the cloud as infrastructure as a service, but does it run in an optimized way? And so they're incurring costs to get to go ahead and achieve plan A. But plan B then is now how do we tune this application? How do we possibly refactor it? How do we augment it to make sure that it's running in an optimized way so cloud spend doesn't get out of control? Because you can end up spending more money in the cloud just because you virtualized an old application and moved it into the cloud. That's
a really good point, Keith.
So when it comes to moving from on-prem to cloud, it's not only a cost discussion, right?
That's correct. When moving to the cloud, most customers can't just look at it and say, will it cost me more or less to move to the cloud? They need to look at all of the other benefits that come along with the cloud that they don't have on-prem. The amount of threat detection, the guaranteed power to their building, the guaranteed internet connectivity, all of the disaster recovery that comes with it is significantly more from cloud services like Azure than what most companies can afford to do on-prem. So when you're looking about moving from on-prem to the cloud, if you don't keep that in mind, you may say, hey, it's costing me more. But the more it's costing you, you're getting significantly more functionality for that cost.
I can imagine a lot, and I think Keith, you touched on it a couple of minutes ago. The idea that maybe some old, perhaps custom developed applications from a previous generation in a data center are no longer serving their purpose, and they need to be sort of replaced. New custom application development might be the right answer with the right approach, but I can imagine you get some resistance to that too in discussions. Some organizations saying, we're committed to packaged solutions. Find us a packaged approach. Are companies struggling with that mindset? Can you give any examples where finding that balance is a lot of the work between off the shelf and new development?
There still is custom application opportunity even in that plan. So let me give an example. These very large clients that we have, they need to seek for regional autonomy. These are companies that have various operations across the planet. And they need to figure out how, these regions have their own autonomy where they can make their own IT or ITO decisions, right? And so they'll end up wanting to look for packages as well. But then corporation itself needs to have some level of governance. And in that in itself is where custom applications could come in. In another example is enterprise integration, is to handle the trading of various software as a service packages, and making sure that you have full governance and data governance that's winding up reporting, bubbling up into corporate. So even from that approach where they're looking for the package solution, there's still custom apps that need to serve those purposes in between.
I was going to mention one thing, so when we're talking with the clients to see how this is going to best fit their need, there's normally a business challenge that they're running around, or a business need per se. And so you need to find what the business problem they're looking to solve, and then put the right technology solution behind it. And so when you go back and you get into these roadblocks, or we're trying to architect and the clients are deciding on which way to go, you have the business need to fall back on and not just a technology need, because then they can talk to each other. But if you're making it just for a technology decision and you don't have business backing, you can sometimes run against some roadblocks. But when you really marriage those two together, you get what you want. You normally get what you need doing a custom solution. So they do work hand in hand.
All right, well, let's shift gears a little bit here. When you are in the process of or planning to develop a custom application, I'm interested to get your approach on building out a roadmap or just managing a particular project. Can any of you share with me a few of the tips that the customers can use when they're getting started? Maybe as David was just saying, defining the needs, building out their own roadmap. Is it and maybe how important is that to really have not just make a decision on a particular development project, but having maybe even a little higher level roadmap to work against?
Yeah, this is Mindy. I think that the roadmap is critical because it really drives their most important business needs first. And a lot of our projects are actually agile in nature, which I love, honestly. But it really, in really using that methodology, we can address their their most important business needs and their highest technical challenges first, so that they can really see that there's a vision beyond the roadmap. But the roadmap also helps us to at least establish a plan so that they can not only plan for it internally as far as adoption, but also, financially plan for it, perhaps phase it in manners that suit their budget the best.
Yeah, that's business value mapping with this roadmap is critical. And just as Mindy, touched on was, hitting the high business value problems first, I think is the key thing. Again, if you have a vendor, regardless of DXC Technology or whomever, and you don't have a business person that cares about the driving quality from a business level top down, then there's a problem.
Yeah, there most certainly is.
And as you step back and you look at a company's direction. If they don't have a roadmap or a vision for where they want to go, many of these customers are so large, they have sometimes hundreds of projects going on simultaneously. And if they're not all somewhat aligned, you can end up using all kinds of varying and divergent software and solutions that then become extremely challenging to support long term and get significantly more complicated to integrate later down the road. But if you can align all of your directions of your projects early on and make sure that you're going to use the right technology for the job, and that if you have an option of technology, but you have more skill set in house, you can then support that better. Those things need to be considered when looking at a long-term roadmap.
From your perspective, what do you find happens most often? Does DXC work with clients to develop a roadmap, or do companies create and then partner with DXC to execute against the roadmap?
I think it's probably a split. It's probably 50-50, have a really good idea of what they want to do and where they want to go. The rest kind of really don't know, and they need consulting from us to help them get there.
Totally agree. Yeah, Mindy's absolutely right. This is right down the middle. There's some clients who go, you're the expert. You know what's happening around our industry. You help us. Then there's some clients who go, no, I don't want you guys wasting your time on that. We've already put a lot of deep thought. Here's the roadmap.
Yeah. The other thing that in your question, you had basically referred to the roadmap and the project plan, and we do some project plans in the traditional nature many times with the custom dev that we're doing. We're doing it as using Agile methodology, and typical tool that we use is Azure DevOps, and we use it very successfully to help manage the work, seek approvals from the business stakeholders and product owners, so that everyone is on the same page as far as what we're delivering.
So when we're talking about the value of planning for custom applications as part of a roadmap, can you talk about the importance of early stage planning versus late stage and the different impact that could have?
Yes, we had a client that was in the bottling business, and we had the opportunity to actually provide digital consulting in this regard, which means that we were able to provide blueprints up front of the entire roadmap of modernizing their businesses and most aspects of their business and operation.
How do you find enterprises adopting Agile when it comes to doing their application development? Are you bringing in your best practices and preferred approach oftentimes, or are companies already up to speed internally on either having an Agile mindset or already having methods that they follow to bring projects around?
Typically, they have not adopted Agile. Many of them want to, and it's definitely an educational process, and it's not necessarily easier, but it brings it allows early feedback and early reaction and adaptation to meld the product more closely to the needs of the organization, because they see the application and get their hands on it early rather than later with the traditional waterfall.
Yeah, most of our companies that approach us if they've come from a traditional waterfall style approach, they really have their mindset around trying to build all of the requirements early, and then get that signed off, and then move then on to the implementation phase where we're actually driving. And that will get that customer exactly what they've asked for. Agile will really get that customer what they need in the end. They can make changes dynamically on the fly and change the direction of the application to finish as much as they need to and as want to, and leaves additional work on the backlog to be able to be completed at any time. So you have a product much sooner that the customers can actually use and interact with, and even go live with in many cases when there's still functionality that can be added later. So it gets them to their go live much sooner.
That's a critical thing is in today's consulting is we have to go for the feedback loop. And so we will end up with clients that still have a traditional PMO on top, but we'll run the business and technical teams underneath will run it in an agile approach. And the purpose of that is to get that feedback loop, is to let them complain, show them stuff early, release often is a principle we use in the development or software engineering side. And the purpose of that is to get that what we think is a nice feature or proper that aligns to value, get that in front of them and get that feedback loop going. That's a critical a relationship step with the client.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the last things I wanted to touch on here was level of ownership of, well, roadmap, or just the ownership of the deployed applications, I guess you would say. What are you hoping to see from your clients? If you come back 3 months later, 6 months later, what are you hoping to see from a client who's running maybe a combination of off-the-shelf solutions and some of these custom applications as well?
I hate to be corny here, but I'm hoping that they're still delighted with what we produced for them. And I mean, with Agile, it's all about people over process and making everyone happy and delivering a solution that fits the needs of the customer and serves their organization, not just now, but in the future.
And I would add to that and say, I hope customers take the application that we've delivered and ever evolve it using the platform and the processes that we put in place and train to their people. So if we're using Azure DevOps and building a backlog of things, once we get them to go live and they feel like they're ready to take over, if we came back later, I'd like to see that they're still adding to the backlog, new ideas, new functionality, changing their application to meet their business needs, and they're driving all of that using all the deployment strategies that we've involved with them, all of the continuous integration, continuous build. Hopefully they're utilizing all of those things that we've put in place, but with their own people.
That's a really good point, Will. Yeah, and we hope that infrastructure that we created is definitely going to serve their future.
Right, just to add, and not to fall in love with the solution itself, but to be more. It's about chasing success stories, right? And so when we view technology, I almost view it as a perishable item in a grocery store, and that approach is more important. Is getting that customer there, achieving that success story, but not falling in love with the work that we've done, because there's going to be more work, and that's the point. Is to earn our business with them and get more work in return.
David, anything else you would add when you're returning to a new conversation with a client? Anything else you're listening for?
Yeah, they all did good, but Will really hit the nail right in the head. But you generally like to follow up with the client, and sometimes when they hear, hey, we've been using this application for the last 2 years, and it's been great. Like, that's the best thing you can hear as somebody that partnered with them on a solution. But then when they want to grow on it, so then that the team that was put in place really built something that was sustainable, and then they want to enhance on it. We have a client that's in the retail space that uses this solution that we created for them that allows you to do preset appointments. And we keep evolving on with the client. So you can plan your Saturday that you can go do all your errands but have a preset appointment you can book during the week. And now the client wants to keep growing and growing on it. That's when it gets rewarding. And I know that rewarding can be kind of really isn't rewarding, but it truly is. When a client builds on a solution and now has used it for 5 years and keeps growing on it, that's when you know that you not only made an impact to their business, but how it impacts the lives of the users as well. So being a sustainable solution is important. Sorry, Mindy, go ahead.
Yeah, it's so I had a customer, I would say within the last year, they were a Dynamics customer, and we did basically a small financial organization, and they had waited, talked with us a couple times to do this customer portal for them, but they got to a point where they really needed it because they wanted to free their team members up. And we did an Agile project. Ultimately they wanted their customers to be able to self-serve themselves on this portal, and it was tying into Dynamics data. And I will tell you, we got to point where they really started to see everything come together, and they were literally giggling that they during the demo, they were so thrilled. And when we got done, I sent an email to my team and I said, you guys, this is what it is all about. This is what you want to achieve. I'm just like so thrilled that they're so happy with this. So, that partnership together between us and the customer, and like Will said, it's all really relationship based as well, and a partnership to really build this solution. It pays off in many ways.
Yeah, in the end, everybody wants to be successful in whatever they do, and for us, our success begins wherever the customer's success is. We can't have greater success than the customer had with their implementation. So if we don't meet their needs, we can't meet our own needs. Our level of success can't be greater than that of the customers that we've delivered, if that makes sense.
Excellent. Well, thank you all so much for taking the time to chat with me about this today. It's a topic that really, it really keeps changing and sort of evolving with the time. So I appreciate you sitting down with me here. With that, I think we're going to wrap things up. Thank you, Keith, Mindy, Will, and David for your time today.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks to our special guests from DXC Technology. If you'd like to speak with our guests or learn more about DXC's technology solutions to help maximize your application investments, you can reach them at phone number 877-651-6193 or email dxceclipse@dxc.com. That's dxceclipse@dxc.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World signing off.